This is actually an update to the Quickdraw weaving program's printer controls. Now the printer controls, as with all Windows programs, are located under the File menu. The standard print, which would actually send the file to the printer. The preview to see what it looks like before you commit to paper, and the setup that tells you whether you want landscape or profile. The thing Quickdraw also adds is the print page setup. Let me open that. That tells me what I want to print. And typically that models after the view screen functions. The summary contains most of the information that would be on the project setup screen. The low resolution is effectively the edit screen, which will print a large enough image of one repeat of the pattern so you can see what's going on. The high resolution and the finished are similar to the multi-thread view that shrinks the image down so you can see the overall pattern. And now the other thing that's also here is a double function. I have found some problem, depending upon which version of Windows, the image may be either over large or print only half size. So that allows you to compensate for that, so you can double it if it's only printing a half width. And then the Save Preferences allows you to set whatever you want for default printing configuration. So right now, if I want to save the summary in low res, if I hit the preferences, it's going to set that. Now every time I load the program, that will be where it starts out printing. So let me look a little bit more at these. So I'm doing a summary in the low res. So when I ask for print preview, it's going to tell me the pattern name, how many shafts, threads, and all that kind of information. For a threading diagram, it's going to tell me how many heddles on each shaft, the color and thread size information, as well as where the floats all are. I asked for a low resolution drawdown, so it's a very simple pattern. Most of the print previews will not actually show the drawdown, which is done as a bitmap, and print preview doesn't seem to like those, so they will appear on the printer, so I'll show that page as I fill in the appropriate samples. And the threading and treadling, let me look at that for a second. Print preview. Now what that's going to show me is just the tie-up with the threading sequence as long as it is in the treadling sequence. Now since this is trivial, I'll get back to this on a more detailed example later. And then the finished view would show you things like the laces and double weaves. It will also print the backsides. Let me get a little bit more complicated pattern here to work with. And let me start. This was if I look at the original grid, this was essentially a profile draft that I had created, and went back in and created a Bronson lace square. So in the process, it's now got a grid diagram to work from, as well as block substitution that it just did. So when I go back in and do print page setup, I now have a grid view and a substitution view, because I now have used those functions. And when I do the print preview, it would actually have print the full image of that grid that we saw, as well as the blocked version of the tie-up and the substitution tables that were created during the substitution. And on this particular pattern, if I ask for, since it's a lace view, if I ask for a finished view, it would show me if I ask for the print preview, that bitmap would actually shown here for the finished fabric. The other thing I haven't really talked much about yet, let's go back to the print page setup. And if I ask for the back side, right now what it's going to do is print the front-sided and the back side of the finished view image. So if I go back to print preview, that would be the front side and the back side. And the other thing I want to look at here real briefly, this is a long network draft. If I look at it here, it's a fairly large and complicated pattern. And if I now go back into the print page setup, now if I look at the threading treadling diagram here, this is where this becomes much more useful to me. And if I do a print preview, now it's actually wrapped that long threading sequence into multiple lines, as well as the lift plan has been wrapped around, so that it basically uses the whole page for the information necessary to actually go weave the pattern. And then the finished pattern down here that I still had set would show me what the final was. And the other thing that's useful for that is, since this was a network view, if I ask for that, now when I do a print preview, it's going to show me the original design line, the compressed design line, the initial, the background key, and the overlay keys, the design ribbon, plus the high-resolution drawdown of the pattern. So I can actually see the complete image there. That one page tells me everything I needed to know about that network draft. So that's what all happens with the printing controls. And so you do have a fair amount of control over what you want to print and how you want things to be set up when you operate. Thank you now. Bye. This is going to be a brief update for the printing controls in version 4.14. Now, in particular, what I've added is the ability to print color order, since I just added the color order capabilities. So if I go to Print Page Setup, it's now added the color order option. If I click that at the moment, so that's the only thing I'm going to print. And if I do a print preview, it's actually going to show me the repeat structures that it would have normally for the warp and weft. It's now going to add, here's the color palettes. So it's going to tell me the color palette, the color numbers, the names, the RGB content, so I can see exactly what those are. It's going to tell me how many thread repeats and the color numbers. So for example, the first one is the set color 2, which is the red. And it's going to show me that for all the repeats for both the warp and the weft. Where I had also added the repeat counter above that, that's showing here in those columns. So that's what gives me the update to the print and the ability to print a quick summary of the overall program structure and color pattern. Thank you.